Welcome to
our channel.
Have you ever spent a really long time trying to make a decision, even about something that seemed small? Oh, definitely. Sometimes choosing something simple becomes surprisingly difficult.
Like what?
Like choosing a restaurant, buying something online, or deciding what to do on the weekend.
Haha, yes. Sometimes there are so many choices that we become even more confused.
Exactly. Having more options doesn't always make things easier.
That's interesting because people usually think more choices mean more freedom.
Yeah, but sometimes too many choices create pressure.
Because we start thinking about every possible result.
Right? We think, what if I choose the wrong one?
That fear can stop us from making any decision.
Exactly.
I think this happens with bigger decisions too.
Definitely. Choosing a career, changing jobs, moving to a new place, or learning a new skill can feel overwhelming.
Because those choices seem connected to our future.
Right? We feel like one decision can change everything.
But is that always true?
Not really. I think many people underestimate their ability to adapt.
What do you mean?
Sometimes we imagine that one wrong decision will ruin everything, but life usually gives us opportunities to adjust.
That's a good point.
Most successful people didn't make perfect choices every time. They learned from their choices.
So maybe the goal is not making perfect decisions.
Exactly. The goal is making thoughtful decisions and being willing to learn.
I like that idea.
Yeah, a lot of stress comes from trying to predict the future.
And nobody can know exactly what will happen.
Right.
So how should we approach important decisions?
I think the first step is understanding what really matters to you.
Not just asking, what should I do?
Exactly. Also ask, why do I want this?
That's a deeper question.
Yeah, sometimes people make choices based on other people's expectations.
Like choosing a career because their family wants them to.
Exactly.
Or comparing themselves with friends.
Right. Someone sees their friend buying a house, getting promoted, or starting a business, and they think they should do the same.
But everyone has a different path.
Exactly.
I think that's something people forget.
Yeah, a good decision for one person may not be the right decision for another.
So knowing yourself is an important part of decision-making.
Definitely.
What about people who always ask others for advice?
Advice can be helpful, but you still need to make your own decision.
Because other people don't live your life.
Exactly.
They can share their experience, but they cannot completely understand your situation.
Right.
That's very true. You know, I think one of the biggest reasons people struggle with decisions is because they are afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes people are not actually confused about what they want. They are just afraid of choosing the wrong thing.
That's true.
They think, what if this doesn't work? Or, what if I regret this decision later?
And that fear can become so strong that they don't do anything.
Exactly. They stay in the same situation because staying feels safer.
Even if they are not really happy with where they are.
Right.
I think a lot of people wait for a moment when they feel 100% sure.
Yeah, but that moment usually doesn't come.
Why do you think that is?
Because life is uncertain. You can collect information, think carefully, and prepare yourself, but you can never know everything before making a choice.
That's a really important point.
Think about moving to a new city.
Okay.
You can research the place, learn about the cost, look at pictures, and talk to people who live there.
But you won't truly know what it feels like until you actually experience it.
Exactly.
So sometimes action gives us information that thinking alone cannot provide.
Right.
That's interesting because many people believe they need more time to think.
Yeah, but sometimes more thinking doesn't create more clarity. Sometimes it just creates more worries.
I can relate to that.
Me too.
There have been times when I kept analyzing a decision again and again. But after finally choosing something, I realized the decision wasn't as scary as I imagined.
Exactly. The fear before the decision is often bigger than the actual experience.
That's so true.
I think another thing we need to remember is that one decision usually doesn't define our entire life.
That's a comforting thought.
Yeah, people sometimes think, if I choose the wrong career, everything is over.
But many people change careers later.
Exactly. People learn new skills, discover new interests, and take different paths.
Life is not always a straight line.
Right? It's more like a journey with different turns.
I like that image.
And sometimes a choice that seems wrong at first can teach you something valuable.
Can you give an example?
Sure, imagine someone starts a job and realizes it's not a good fit.
They might feel like they wasted their time.
Right, but maybe they learned what kind of work they enjoy, what environment suits them, and what skills they need to improve.
So even a disappointing experience can provide information.
Exactly.
I think people often judge decisions only by the final result.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
If something works out, they think, that was a good decision.
And if it doesn't work out, they think, that was a bad decision.
But maybe it's not that simple.
Exactly. A good decision can sometimes lead to a bad result because of things outside your control.
And a bad decision can sometimes accidentally lead to something good.
Right.
So maybe we should focus more on the process.
Yes, did you think carefully? Did you consider your values? Did you learn something?
Those questions are more useful.
Definitely.
Let's talk about another thing, comparing our decisions with other people's decisions.
Yeah, that's a dangerous habit.
Especially when we look at people who seem more successful.
Right? Someone might think, my friend already has a successful career. Why am I still figuring things out?
But they don't know the whole story.
Exactly. They don't know that person's struggles, doubts, or sacrifices.
They only see the result.
Right.
Social media makes this even stronger.
Definitely. People usually share achievements, not uncertainty.
Nobody posts, I spent 6 months feeling confused about my future.
Haha, exactly.
But many people experience that.
Absolutely.
So when making decisions, maybe we should stop asking, am I behind?
Yeah, a better question is, am I moving in the direction I want?
That's much healthier.
Because everyone has a different timeline.
I think another important skill is accepting that every choice has a cost.
That's very true.
What do you mean?
People sometimes look for a perfect choice where they get everything.
But that usually doesn't exist.
Exactly. Every decision means choosing one thing and giving up another.
For example, choosing a new job might mean more opportunities but less free time.
Right.
Choosing to study might mean less entertainment now, but more possibilities later.
Exactly.
So making decisions requires understanding what you value most.
Yes,
That actually makes decisions easier.
it does.
Because instead of asking, which choice has no disadvantages?
You ask, which disadvantages am I willing to accept?
That's a very different way of thinking.
Yeah,
I think this is something people learn as they get older.
definitely. When you're younger, you might think there is one perfect answer.
But life teaches you that there are many possible paths.
Exactly.
And sometimes the path you didn't expect becomes the most meaningful one.
That's often true.
You know, I think career decisions are probably some of the hardest decisions people make.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your career affects so many parts of your life.
Exactly, it's not just about money.
Right? It's also about your time, your lifestyle, your happiness, and even how you see yourself.
That's true, and I think many people feel a lot of pressure when choosing a career.
Yeah, especially when they are young.
Because everyone keeps asking, what do you want to do in the future?
Haha, exactly. And sometimes you're expected to have a perfect answer when you're only 18 or 20 years old.
Which is actually pretty difficult.
It really is. I mean, at that age, many people are still trying to understand themselves.
Right, they are still discovering what they like, what they're good at, and what kind of life they want.
Exactly.
But society often makes people feel like they need to decide everything immediately.
Yeah, and that pressure can make people choose based on fear instead of interest.
What do you mean?
For example, someone might choose a career only because it seems safe, or because other people think it's impressive.
Like choosing a job because your family says it's a good choice.
Exactly.
But later they realize they don't actually enjoy it.
Right.
I think many people experience that.
Definitely. And honestly, I don't think there is anything wrong with changing your direction.
Some people feel embarrassed about changing careers.
Yeah, they think changing means they failed.
But maybe changing means they learn something new about themselves.
Exactly.
That's a really important difference.
Yeah, imagine you try something and realize, this is not the right path for me.
Some people see that as a failure.
Right, but actually, you gained valuable information.
You now know what doesn't work.
Exactly. And sometimes knowing what you don't want is just as important as knowing what you do want.
That's true.
I think people sometimes forget that successful people also change their minds.
Really?
Of course, Many people think successful people always knew exactly what they were doing.
But that's probably not true.
Not at all. Many people tried different things before finding the right direction.
So the journey is often messy.
Yeah, very messy.
I like that word because people usually only talk about the final success.
Exactly. We see the finished product, not the process.
We see someone's successful business, but we don't see the years they spent learning.
Right.
We see someone speaking confidently, but we don't see all the times they felt unsure.
Exactly.
Let's talk about another difficult decision, knowing when to stay and when to leave.
That's a big one.
Especially with jobs,
Yeah, many people stay in situations they don't enjoy because they are afraid of change.
the familiar feels safer.
Exactly. Even if the situation isn't great, at least they know what to expect.
But staying comfortable doesn't always mean you are making the best choice.
Right.
So how can people know when it's time to make a change?
I think one question is important. Am I staying because I truly want this, or because I'm afraid?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, sometimes fear makes decisions for us.
For example, someone might stay in a job they dislike because they think, what if I can't find anything better?
Exactly.
But maybe they never give themselves a chance.
Right.
Of course, making a big change requires thinking carefully.
Definitely. I'm not saying people should suddenly quit their jobs without a plan.
Haha, yes, that would create a different kind of problem.
Exactly. Good decisions need both courage and responsibility.
I like that combination.
Yeah, being brave doesn't mean ignoring reality.
It means being willing to take thoughtful risks.
Exactly.
I think another thing people struggle with is wanting certainty before they act.
Yeah, people often say, I'll make a change when I know everything will work out.
But nobody can know that.
Right? Sometimes you have to move forward with incomplete information.
That sounds scary.
It can be, but that's part of life.
I guess every decision has some uncertainty.
Exactly.
Even choosing a restaurant has uncertainty.
Haha, true. You might order something new and not like it.
But you survive.
Exactly.
And bigger decisions are similar, just with bigger consequences.
Right.
I think confidence also comes from knowing that you can handle challenges.
Yes, maybe confidence is not believing everything will go perfectly.
It's believing that you can deal with problems when they appear.
Exactly.
That's a very different mindset.
Yeah,
So when people face a big life decision, maybe they should ask themselves a few questions.
definitely.
Like, does this choice match my values?
Good question.
Am I choosing this because I want it or because I'm afraid?
Another important one.
And maybe, what can I learn even if things don't go exactly as planned?
I really like that question.
Because it changes the way we see decisions.
Exactly. Instead of seeing every choice as a risk, we can see it as an opportunity to learn.
That's a much more positive way to think.
Yeah,
You know, I think life decisions are difficult because they matter.
right, if we didn't care, we wouldn't worry.
That's true.
The fact that we feel nervous often means something is important to us.
I like that.
Yeah, so instead of fighting that feeling, maybe we can use it as a reminder to think carefully.
And then take the next step.
Exactly.
You know, there's something else about decisions that I think is really difficult.
What's that?
Learning how to accept a decision that didn't turn out the way we hoped.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Because when something goes wrong, many people immediately blame themselves.
Exactly. They start thinking, why did I choose this? Or I should have known better.
Yeah, they keep going back to the past.
Right. They replay the situation again and again, trying to find the exact moment where they made a mistake.
I think everyone has done that at some point.
Definitely. I mean, it's natural. When something hurts, our brain wants to understand why it happened.
That makes sense.
But sometimes, we spend so much time looking backward that we forget to look forward.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, the past can teach us something, but we can't live there forever.
I like that. We can learn from the past, but we don't have to stay trapped in it.
Exactly.
I think one reason people struggle with mistakes is because they see them as proof that they are not good enough.
Yeah, and that can be really damaging.
Because making a bad decision doesn't mean you are a bad person.
Right? It just means you are human.
Everyone makes choices with the information they have at that moment.
Exactly, and that's something people often forget.
What do you mean?
Sometimes we judge our past decisions using what we know today.
Ah, that's true.
For example, imagine you accepted a job 5 years ago, and now you realize it wasn't the right choice.
You might think, why did I choose that job?
Right, but 5 years ago, you didn't have today's experience.
You made the best decision you could with what you knew.
Exactly.
That's actually a very important way to look at things.
Yeah, we need to be fair to our past selves.
I like that phrase.
Because sometimes we are much kinder to other people than we are to ourselves.
That's so true.
If a friend made a mistake, we might say, "It's okay, you learned something."
But when we make the same mistake, we say, I can't believe I did that.
Exactly.
Why do you think we are so hard on ourselves?
I think many people believe being critical will help them improve.
Like if I blame myself enough, I won't make the mistake again.
Right.
But that doesn't always work.
No, sometimes too much self-criticism actually makes it harder to move forward.
Because you lose confidence.
Exactly.
So what should we do instead?
I think we should analyze mistakes, not attack ourselves.
Can you explain the difference?
Sure, attacking yourself sounds like, "I'm terrible at making decisions."
And analyzing sounds like, what can I learn from this experience?
Exactly.
One is about blaming yourself, and the other is about improving yourself.
Right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah,
I think another useful question is, what did this decision teach me?
I love that question.
Because even difficult experiences can give us something valuable.
Absolutely.
For example, someone might leave a job and realize they need better communication skills.
Right.
Or someone might end a relationship and learn more about what they need in the future.
Exactly.
Or someone might fail at something and discover they need more patience.
Yes.
So mistakes can become lessons.
Exactly.
But I think sometimes people don't want to accept that they made a mistake.
Yeah, because admitting it can feel uncomfortable.
It can feel like admitting failure.
Right.
But actually, admitting mistakes requires honesty.
Definitely. And honestly, people who can admit mistakes are usually more mature.
Because they are willing to grow.
Exactly.
I think about children learning to walk.
That's a good example.
They fall many times, but they don't think, I'm terrible at walking.
Haha, exactly.
They just try again.
Right, somehow, as adults, we become afraid of failing.
Because we start worrying about what failure means about us.
Exactly.
Maybe we need to bring back some of that curiosity.
I agree.
Instead of asking, why did I fail?
Ask, what did I discover?
That changes everything.
Yeah,
Let's talk about regret.
sure.
Do you think regret is always bad?
Not necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, I think regret can be useful if we use it correctly.
How?
Regret can show us what matters to us.
Can you give an example?
Imagine someone regrets not spending more time with their family.
That regret shows them family is important.
Exactly.
So instead of staying stuck in regret, they can change their actions now.
Right.
The problem is when regret becomes a place where we live.
Exactly.
We keep thinking about what we should have done differently.
Yeah, but we can't change yesterday.
We can only make better choices today.
Exactly.
That's probably one of the hardest lessons in life.
I think so too.
Because humans naturally want to fix things.
Right? When something goes wrong, we want to go back and change it.
But sometimes the only thing we can change is our next step.
Exactly.
You know, I think a lot of wisdom comes from making mistakes.
Yeah, experience teaches things that books cannot always teach.
Because you feel it personally.
Right.
So maybe making mistakes is not the opposite of success.
I actually think mistakes are part of success.
That's a good way to see it.
Because every mistake gives you information.
Information about yourself, your choices, and the world around you.
Exactly.
So the next time we make a bad decision, maybe we shouldn't immediately ask, why did I mess up?
Instead ask, what can I learn from this?
I think that's a much healthier question.
Definitely.
And maybe that's how we become better decision makers over time.
Yeah, not by never making mistakes, but by learning from every experience.
I really like that.
Me too.
You know, after talking about all these different kinds of decisions, I think there is one final thing we should talk about.
What's that?
Learning to trust yourself.
Yeah, that's a really important one.
Because even if you have good information, think carefully and ask for advice, at some point you still have to make your own choice.
Exactly. Nobody else can make every decision for you.
But trusting yourself is not always easy,
No, it isn't.
especially when you see other people who seem very confident about their choices.
Yeah, sometimes we look at other people and think, they know exactly what they're doing. Why don't I feel that way?
But maybe they don't feel as confident as they appear.
Exactly. A lot of people have doubts. They just learn how to move forward even with those doubts.
That's a really important difference.
Yeah, confidence doesn't mean you never feel uncertain.
It means you believe you can handle uncertainty.
Exactly.
I think many people wait until they feel completely ready,
Yeah, and sometimes they wait forever.
because there is always another thing to learn or another reason to hesitate.
Right.
For example, someone wants to start learning a new language.
Okay.
They say, I'll start when I have more time.
Haha, that's a very common one.
Then they say, I'll start when I find the perfect course.
And then maybe they say, I'll start next month.
Exactly.
But sometimes the best time to start is simply when you decide to begin.
Even if the conditions are not perfect.
Right.
I think people sometimes confuse preparation with waiting.
That's a good point.
Preparation is useful, but waiting forever can become another form of fear.
Exactly.
So how can people know when they have prepared enough?
I think when you have enough information to take the next reasonable step, that's usually enough.
The next reasonable step.
Yeah, not the entire journey, just the next step.
That sounds much less overwhelming,
Exactly.
because many people try to plan their whole future.
Right, but life doesn't work like that.
You can plan, but you also have to adapt.
Exactly.
I think about driving at night.
Interesting example.
When you drive at night, your headlights don't show the entire road,
Right, they only show a small distance ahead.
but you can still keep going,
That's actually a great comparison.
because sometimes life is the same.
Yeah, we don't need to know every detail of the future before moving forward.
We just need enough clarity for the next step.
Exactly.
I think another thing that helps with decisions is knowing your values.
Definitely.
Because when you know what matters to you, choices become clearer.
Right.
For example, someone may choose a job with a lower salary because it gives them more time with family,
And that might be the right decision for them.
even if someone else doesn't understand it.
Exactly.
Because the best decision is not always the decision that looks best from the outside.
That's so true.
It's the decision that fits your own life.
Right.
I think a lot of stress comes from trying to impress other people,
Yeah, people sometimes make choices based on how those choices will look.
instead of how they will feel.
Exactly.
Like choosing a career title because it sounds impressive.
Or buying things just to show success.
But those things don't always create happiness.
Right.
So maybe a good decision is one that matches who you are,
Exactly.
not who other people expect you to be.
I really like that.
You know, something else I've noticed is that people often underestimate how much they can change.
Yeah, that's true.
They think, I've always been this way, so I'll always be this way.
But people are constantly learning and growing.
Exactly.
The person you are today doesn't have to be the same person you are 5 years from now.
That's actually a very hopeful idea,
Yeah,
because it means one decision doesn't have to define your entire identity.
exactly.
Maybe you choose something today, learn from it, and choose something different tomorrow.
That's part of being human.
We are always becoming someone new.
Right.
So if someone is facing a difficult decision right now, what advice would you give them?
Good question.
Take your time.
Yeah, but don't wait forever.
That's a good balance.
I would say, collect information, listen to advice, think about your values, and then trust yourself enough to make a choice.
I like that.
And remember that a decision is not always a final destination.
It can be a step.
Exactly.
You can always learn, adjust, and continue moving forward.
Right.
I think people need to hear that more often.
Yeah, many people are afraid because they think every choice is permanent.
But life gives us many opportunities to change.
Exactly.
Maybe the goal is not to make perfect decisions.
I agree.
Maybe the goal is to become someone who can handle whatever happens after making a decision.
That's a much stronger mindset.
Because life will always have uncertainty,
Right.
but we can become more confident in dealing with it.
Exactly.
I think that's a great place to end today's conversation.
Yeah, I think so too.
Today we talked about why decisions are difficult, why mistakes are part of growth, and why trusting yourself matters.
And hopefully, everyone listening remembers that there is no need to have every answer right away.
Sometimes you just need to take the next step.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
And remember, every choice is a chance to learn something new.
See you next time.
Take care and keep moving forward.